Turn it on, leave it on.
Yes.
Okay.
Get close to it.
Then I'll turn it on. Okay. We're going to call our meeting to order. Parks Commission, April 4th, 2024 at 6 p.m. And our first order of business is the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve our March minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second the motion.
Thank you.
Minutes.
We have citizen comment on minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, Chris, in your approval of the minutes there is an error. It needs a correction. I spoke and I provided a registration page that you have on a correction and edit to the previous minutes, and this is not recognized and it has to be in the record.
All right, thank you. Scott, you have the form from last month, and you can. I do. And
I'll have to follow up, Patrick. I guess I need to find out exactly what you're, and we'll get them corrected, that's for sure.
Any other comments on minutes, corrections? Those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Our minutes are corrected. Do we have any public appearances for non-agenda items? Okay. We'll move on to review and approve our agenda. Motion to approve?
Motion to approve agenda items.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any comments on the agenda? Do we like it as is? All right. Those in favor of the motion of the agenda as written, say aye.
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you. Our action items, 5A, public hearing and consideration of resolution R24-24, approval of the 2024 to 2028 Parks and Open Space and Recreation Plan. And we'll start with any citizen comments regarding the plan. We'll open that up now, and the comments are limited to 3 minutes. Try to stay within the 3 minutes. I have Steve Arnold registered to speak. 2530 Targhee Street. Go right ahead.
Good evening. Thanks for hearing me out. The origin of my concern with this plan was 2 years ago when I was first shopping around. Fitchburg's idea to designate our multi-use path system as the Fitchburg Greenway system. Former Mayor Richardson asked that it be in the Park and Open Space update, Park and Open Space Plan update, which was just getting going at that time. And I didn't see a need for that, but I wasn't mayor, he was. And so here we are. It's still not approved. I was very interested in seeing the draft, and I was very disappointed to see that there were only a couple of sentences about that. So I did go through, and you, Scott, mailed out Monday a red line showing the Bike Fitchburg changes. Some of these implement recommendations that TTC made on March 14th, but they have not seen the implementation. They only put out the ideas. So you'll see the list of ideas that they have in there. Some of them are minor copywriting things like distinguishing between paths and trails and saying Lewis, Nine Springs E-Way when that occurs. But there are some more substantial ones, bringing in the Dane County Bicycle Wayfinding Plan, providing maps and a list of segments of the Greenway system, making some recommendations. So I hope that you had a chance to look at those. and I will stay here during your discussion in case you have any questions for me about what I was trying to accomplish or what the history was behind something or those kinds of things. So with that, I would take any questions that you have for me now and hear what else everyone else has to say.
Anyone have any questions for right now?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else present that would like to speak about the Parks and Open Space Plan? Since not, we'll close the public comment portion, and then I'm going to hand a description over to Scott to open up our discussion.
And I thank you, Sue. And what I'm going to do, if I might, is go through a quick a presentation. And actually, what I've been doing is going around to the other committees to introduce this plan over the last month and to gather their comments. And what was it was an observation that I had when I did this is when I would go through the plan, we talk about or identify each of the goals or action items within the plan that each of the different committees, it kind of relates to them. So it was kind of interesting to find out that, the Park and Open Space Plan is kind of where everybody gathers, but it was kind of interesting that all the committees within the city actually have a piece of the Park and Open Space Plan, which was really kind of interesting and cool for me. Another thing that I did share with everybody is with this being an update of the 2015 plan, I was able to reflect on where we were in 2015 in comparison to 2024, which I think was really a nice exercise. And I did include in your packet of information, though, I do a host report, which kind of gives a summary of the department for the annual year. And in comparing 2015 to 2024, and actually the host reports have three different sections. The first section is staffing. The second section has to do with budget information, and then the last section is general park information. And what I found when you compare 2015 to 2024 in regards to staffing, in 2015 we had 10.25 full-time equivalents within the department. And again, the department is the Parks Department, Park Maintenance, the Recreation Department, which there's two staff there, and then Anna Healy, our city forester naturalist. And that compared to 2024, where we have 11.75 full-time equivalents. So we have grown 1.5 full-time equivalents in the last 10 years. In regards to the budget, in 2015, the operating budget was a little bit over $1 million, but in 2024, we're at almost $2 million. So the budget has definitely increased. Another part of that section is the revenues. And you notice, while in 2015, and the revenues are collected through recreational fees, park shelter rentals, community center rentals, athletic field rentals. In 2015, we brought in, or the rec department brought in about $200,000 in fees. And then that, in compared to 2023, they did bring in almost $270,000 in fees. What was kind of interesting to me that I noticed on the 2024 report that in 2020, well, actually in 2019, you can see that they brought in about $260,000, but in 2020, it was $70,000. And you know what happened in 2020? That's when COVID hit. But then, if you look at the 2023 number of $270,000, we've really gotten back to the pre-COVID level a little bit above. So that was a pretty nice observation to see. It did include in the 2024 report that Anna and we were able to plant 401 trees within the city in 2023. And then on the general park information, in 2015 we had 507 acres. In comparison to today, we have about 788 total acres. So you can really see the change in the department in those 10 years. And actually on the bottom of the 2024 report, you can see that what we've done since 2015, we've added the dog park, an inclusive playground, disc golf course, which actually is partnered with the golf course at 9 Springs, 8 pickleball courts, and over 30 miles of trail. And if you compare that to 2015, we had about 20 miles of trail. So that's really increased over the years. And maybe just a little bit more of a deep dive into the amenities. Small gazebos, we have 15 of those within the park system, 14 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, 12 large shelters, and I think 7 or 8 of those are available for rent with bathrooms, 13 ball diamonds, 22 half basketball courts, 6 full court basketball courts, and 40 playgrounds. So it's quite a big system. And actually, when we begin to talk about the CIP, I'm kind of working on an exercise this year to kind of do an inventory of all of our amenities, their conditions, and then begin to start to determine how we can get the replacement dollars in when these amenities meet their life expectancy, if you would. So that was really kind of interesting that I shared with anyone. And then certainly the plan itself, it is broken into three different sections. We have the executive summary. Actually what I did too is I did include the park improvement fee table, and then the fee in lieu of parkland dedication. And I also prefaced that what happens is when the development comes in, the new development comes in, they provide parkland, and then they also provide the dollars to implement any kind of new park facility. But the needle that we need to begin to start to thread is that needle that in 20 or 25 years, when these things wear out, we're beginning to do that, but replace playgrounds and redo pickleball courts and tennis courts and all of those kinds of things. So I kind of share with everybody the different funding that we do receive. I did include also current projects. The hub is one. I did include the Stoner Prairie Park Plan is one, and then also the Egg Park as one. And then I kind of qualified that these parks, these developments are achieved through parkland dedication, that we receive the property through the ordinances, and then we also receive the park improvement fees to develop the facilities. So the facilities are actually created and built with park improvement dollars, no operating budget dollars, but certainly the maintenance of those facilities are handled through the operating tax levy, if you would. So I shared that. And then, like I was kind of speaking about, is I talked about the different pieces of the plan, the executive summary, and then the middle of the plan is really, a lot of the amenities that we currently have within the city. And then actually I talk about at the end where really the action items, section 3, and I'm kind of scrolling quickly here. Section 3, the action items. And what I did do is I read I do read the action item framework. Recreation in public spaces can take many different forms. A conventional form, including basketball, volleyball courts, baseball, softball diamonds, play equipment, natural activities such as walking and hiking. These conventional forms will always have a place in the public spaces. This section of the plan looks beyond these conventional forms and looks at recreation on public spaces through the following framework, the three S's. And this was really When we did the plan in 2015, Wade Thompson, if you remember, we kind of blew up the plan, if you would, and really began to start to focus on what the park system should be, what it should provide. And we came up with these three S's that if you think of the park system, you think of sociable, where we talk about locations, gathering places, those kinds of things where our community can interact with one another. We also think about solitude, that our park system provides locations for solitude, natural areas. And then also the big thing is seams, where we've got the trail system and we connect our different parks to each other, but certainly to the other regional trails that we have within the community. And then when we look at the new parks, what we try to do is we try to include consideration for each of these three S's, if you would. And then I did kind of talk about the vision. City of Fitchburg Park Open Space Rec System strives for an appropriate balance of passive, active recreational, social opportunities, and responsible preservation and sustainable stewardship of the city's natural environment and resources. The system works to achieve these ideals through adherence to the city's growth principles of sustainable, equitable, vibrant, and cooperative, as contained in the city's comp plan, as well as the system's 3 S's framework of sociable, solitude, and seams. And I did kind of preface that the plan is really our department's action plan. It kind of calls out different actions and different goals. It doesn't get into the details of each of those specific actions. For example, I'll go to the Housing Committee on Monday, and their interest is going to be parkland dedication ordinances and parkland, and that is identified as a goal or an action item within the plan to take a look at that. But then what I ask them to do is to take a look at that specific piece to see if there's some clarifying language or whatever they might want to include in it, but it's not going to include the details of that specific action. So that's kind of the quick thumb, and then we received, several comments through the visit with all of those different committees. What will happen, originally we were looking to hopefully get the plan approved in April, but it's certainly going to take a little bit longer. We're going to have a lot of comments that we're still gathering, and the planning department, and I should thank Deanna and Brad from the planning department. They're really the authors and the ones that are helping us go through this exercise, but they'll help determine what part of the comments that we receive would fit appropriately into the plan, and then we'll circle back with a couple. I know the Plan Commission tabled it, so they certainly want to see it again, and it'll come back to the Park Commission before we get final approval. So that's my spiel.
Anybody have any comments? Dave?
Question and a comment. The question is, the revenue is predominantly from rentals, shelter rentals, is that correct?
I would say the majority of it is from recreational fees collection for people that participate in recreational programs.
So of the 260,000, how much is recreational versus shelter?
The shelters, the shelters might be 65 or 70. The rec fees are probably 200. And then actually I might indicate that I am the cemetery sexton, so I do sell grave lots so that's part of we've got some additional revenue there.
Okay. The point I'd make on that, the shelter rentals are predominantly on weekends. And so our park staff is out on Saturdays at time and a half and Sunday at double time, emptying the garbage. So that offsets it. I'm all for that, but, we have to keep that in mind. We show that as revenue, but we eat a lot of it up, in labor cost. So that I'm not saying that as a negative, just to lay it out there. back to the parkland dedication. We put the new parks in, and we're struggling how to pay for future maintenance. And I'm gonna throw this out now, and I know you can't do anything about it right now, Scott, but I think we have more parkland than we can take care of, I think more than frankly we need. I'd like to see us lower our parkland dedication fees, say it's whatever it is an acre, reduce it, and then the other amount require the developer to donate it to, if we ever get a Friends of the Park fund set up, that they would be required to make that donation to that Friends of the Park, and then that fund would be managed for future. Now, I know this is a policy thing, but that's what I'm throwing out. I think that would be a good measure, and if they didn't want to make the donation, then I guess we don't approve their subdivision.
Well, and I think that, and really, Dave, what's happened is as I've gone to the other groups and the committees, they're kind of realizing the same situation that we have, and they're even thinking in their mind, what can we do creatively to try and to thread that needle, if you would, and the idea of, and I think that's where the evaluation of the fees that we collect. I would suspect we may collect the same amount of fees, but they might be divvied up a little bit different, or those kinds of things. So I think that's one of the action items that we really should begin to start to dive into to see how we can solve that. And actually, what the council did do when we did the tennis courts at McKee and then the pickleball courts at McGaw, they put the dollars in there originally, but then they also added $20,000 or $25,000 that'll be collected every year for the next 30 or 40 years. Yep. So that when it's time to redo it, then the dollars are there. So those, I appreciate that. That's in the Friends of the Fitchburg Parks. I think that's a novel idea. I think it might be a push. I don't know how willing folks might be to donate dollars to repair and maintain things. I think that might be. I don't know what the interest would be in that, but certainly, when we're doing Kids Crossing, when we're redoing those kinds of things, I think those are very viable community projects that could be very successful in receiving dollars through a Friends of the Fitchburg Parks, a nonprofit 501c3 type of group. So I think that's a great idea.
I would add to that, Dave. That's a great idea, but this is not the first time a park system has had this challenge. So I think part of that is researching other municipalities on what they've done in regards to that challenge. On a separate note and comment in regards to the proposed plan and the process. So I just want to make note that I did send an email on March 7th to the commission, the committee, and to the mayor asking about including language that would be land recognition to the Ho-Chunk, and also maybe a deeper understanding of demographics and park and outdoor access and equitability. So my question, this is more of a question than a comment. You said the next step is taking the comments to the planning committee. Is that correct?
Well, what we'll do is we'll internally with the planning department, we'll review all the comments, and then they'll help because I'm really relying on them because they work with other planning documents within the city.
Yep.
As to try to make sure that the planning documents are consistent in their what's included in them.
Sure.
So they're really going to be helpful in determining how that's placed in the plan.
So since I'm going to use my new hat still, I'm still relatively new on the process. Yep. Should I forward my comments to the planning department? And I have additional comments. There were examples from Dane County Park System, but I was thinking also from the city of Madison as well.
And certainly, Christopher, we're even as a public resident, as a resident of the city, you can certainly provide any public comments. And typically, if I receive a comment, what I'll do is I'll circulate it to the park commission so they're aware of it and all of those. But certainly, yeah.
Okay,
The more comments, the better.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? I wanted to mention on page 53 of 42, that's Stoner Prairie Park, and I know they're working on upgrading the acreage, because the acreage shown there is from the original park from the 90s, and it's around 11 acres now. And so that's just a bookkeeping thing. But the other thing about it is the address itself. When the park was given that address, it was at the end of a dead-end street, and that was the only way to get there. And now that the park is complete with the neighborhood surrounding it on all sides, plus the school, the most direct route, and it would be the direct route to where the restrooms are, is on Wayfair Street. So I made the case for getting the address changed as well to the address of the Public Works water pressure station there, Alder Herbst? It just seems more logical if anybody does a map search and puts that address in, it winds you through neighborhoods that you don't need to wind through, and you can just take Lacey to Wayfair and be right at the park. There's more parking on Wayfair than on Scarlet. The Scarlet neighbors have been complaining about how people drive and park when they visit the park to play in the league plays. So I'm making the case one more time that we get the address updated as well. And then another thing that, talking with Tree Advisory Committee and following their comments, going back to when I started on the Parks Commission, which was in 2020, the Tree Advisory Committee did a report, one of my very first meetings, about tree canopy and tree canopy goals. And late last year, I was following up with the city forester about it, and she was working with someone, communicating with someone with the DNR, and the mapping shows you where green things are growing, and they can tell that they're trees or shrubs. It cannot tell you what kind of trees and shrubs they are. They don't have that figured out technology-wise. And so I would like to see where we say tree canopy goal to change it to quality tree canopy goal, so that we're not patting ourselves on the back if we are, for how many acres of buckthorn or honeysuckle we might have. And I realized we never get to goals like this overnight, but if we state it more succinctly, we'll hopefully get what we're aiming for at the end. And those are the comments that I have. Anything more? No? Well, we didn't do a motion to approve, and we're just collecting comments. So we can move on unless anyone has a last-minute thought to throw in. All right, we're going to go to 5B, which is a public hearing and consideration of Resolution R-1224, park naming within Highfield Reserve Development. And just got to look at my papers here. We have David Fahey's here to answer questions only, correct? And Patrick Cheney has a comment, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I went ahead and read 5B, and we're on 5A. So there's nobody here to comment on 5A. Okay. All right. Now I got it. Sorry. I've been on the wrong page twice in 2 seconds. Okay. So there are no comments to make then. So, excuse me, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
And second? I'll second. How's that? Okay, Scott, anything to tell us?
All good.
Go ahead.
Perhaps Mr. Fahey could explain the significance of the names, just for people that maybe are watching for the first time.
My name is David Fahey. I live and grew up on Irish Lane. My great-grandmother, Julia Monks Fahey, was born in Fitchburg in 1854. Her parents immigrated from Ireland and bought the land in 1855. She grew up on Irish Lane and then had 3 sons. In traditional Irish way, you ignore the daughters. So then her 3 sons, which would be my grandfather and his brothers, farmed on Irish Lane. And then my father farmed on Irish Lane his whole life. So we've been on Irish Lane. Next year we will push 165 years. So Monks was my great-grandparents and my great-great-grandparents' name. And then Fahey was my great-grandparents' married name, my grandparents and my father. And those 2 are to support the ones that farmed in Fitchburg their whole lives, and the women and sisters and brothers that supported their activity. And then Tipperary is an Irish traditional name in Ireland, and also the dog was named Tippy, so that was where that one came from. And then Castlebar is a name that we were not allowed to have a road that we just like. Thank you.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
Just in regards to the letter that we received on August 2023, just the first sentence, let's see here. In the second paragraph, the history of the land starts in 1855. I appreciate the history, but I want to make sure that we give due diligence and deference to the Ho-Chunk people as well. And if there's a way that we can amend language from our side, just that recognizes that, again, that this rich history as well as the Ho-Chunk that did steward the land prior. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, got to find my page. Oh, go ahead, Heidi.
Hi, so 2 questions. So I'm looking at the naming, and so all of the names they all go back to one family. And I'm curious because I know at one point there were, I don't know, other families involved, Blaney maybe, and something else, unless I'm confusing this with something else.
Next one, on the next agenda item.
Okay, all right, well then, I'm sorry, we'll save that question for the next one. And then with regards to the Ho-Chunk, are there, I'm wondering how we would recognize that. I don't know if there are deeds or if there some sort of, land surveys that indicate how and where the Ho-Chunk were in this area and how we would be able to recognize that.
You want to go ahead?
I think that's great, a great question. I don't have specifics on that. I think it's generally recognized that the Ho-Chunk were the original stewards of this area, and that extends in this region. So I think we can come up with some draft language, and my proposal is just to add amended language that would be appropriate and reflective of that. So I don't have that with me at this moment, but I'm happy to do some research and offer some suggestions. I think one of the other ways that we could approach that is also engagement with the Ho-Chunk and how they would be like to be recognized in that, if that were the case. So that would be part of that proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Heidi? And thank you. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, figures. So I guess, yeah, it would be important to know, where and how the Ho Chunk were involved in this area, if in fact we were to recognize, because I think it's important to recognize ancestry and history where it exists, but not just in the just to name something to name something. Do you know what I'm saying? I think in order to do that, I want to make sure that we have some sort of meaning involved with it. And I'm not saying we should go with all these family names here. I mean, I think, definitely there's discussion about that. But there's definitely history and documentation that goes with that. And so, Christopher, in light of what you've said, I mean, I would be very interested in seeing, how that goes back, how far it goes back, and what sort of use that the Ho Chunk was having for this area. So anyway, I guess those are just comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, we can go ahead and vote. Those in favor of the park names for the Highfield Reserve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Just not in opposition, I support the name, but in regards to the amendment that I requested, how does that play out? Do we have to vote on that as well, or would that be consideration for later?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was an amendment. Was there a second? Or
I guess it's a discussion.
yeah,
What's the process?
I didn't understand
Sure.
that it was an amendment. I thought you were offering a comment about, in general, parks names, so I apologize.
Oh, that's fine. So I was proposing an amendment to include amended language to recognize Ho Chunk, and if that requires additional information that Heidi brought up in her comments, I'm happy to do that work. But I don't want it to delay the naming process, but rather it's an amendment to our side to recognize that it's more of a land recognition.
Yeah, I mean, we could approve this, and there's another coming that follows, and have our discussion about researching history going beyond white settlement as part of our policy, or we have to look at it in terms of policy.
Okay.
Really, that would be my guess. Scott, do you have a remark?
Well, and actually too, recognizing and including the Historical Society in that naming process. So I think, as you mentioned, Sue, an amendment to the policy to include historical perspective and involvement along with Chris's recommendation could be a good location to place that information.
Is that fair?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Ready to vote? Those in favor?
We already voted.
Did we?
I'll add my eye.
We didn't
to
finish
that.
here. I'm sorry.
You still need a second, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna vote simply on the name changes as proposed and talk about anything looking into history differently as a separate policy discussion at a later meeting. So, and we're accepting.
That makes sense. Thank
and we
you.
have all voted. Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you. All right, we're at 5C, the public hearing and consideration of a resolution R1324, approval of park names for the Hartung development. And we have Patrick Cheney. You're here to make a comment?
I'll move approval.
Ah,
I'll move the public hearing first.
yeah. 3 minutes for our opened public hearing, since I didn't say that to start.
Patrick Cheney, representing the East Fitchburg Neighborhood Association, which includes this area. I registered both in opposition to Farmstead Park name and in support of Blaney Farms Park as a better name. I will read one sentence, which is the short version in your staff comments, that says, names submitted for consideration should provide some sort of individual identity in relation to geographical location of the facility, outstanding feature of the facility, adjoining subdivision, street, school, natural feature, or in honor of a person or group, or to show gratitude to an individual. And Farmstead Park doesn't meet any of that, even though that was approved by this commission back in January, and I spoke against it then too. Farmstead Park, well, I know that there are comments in here that the Hartung brothers are apparently willing to see a change also, but the proposal that is before you includes the Farmstead Park name, and if this goes ahead without anybody saying anything, that's what you would be approving. So this needs an amendment. The Farmstead Park name is just pointless and useless. It doesn't refer to anything specific. There are farms all over Fitchburg. This doesn't recognize them just by having a park named Farm. And there's nothing specific of this area or why this should be in this area. It definitely should be something recognizing the founder of the seed corn plant, Richard Blaney, and rather than me speaking on that, I will leave it to the family members who are present who give you more information on that.
Okay, thank you. We also did have a letter dropped off by Mark Jones supporting the name of Blaney Farms Park that I'll mention. Anybody else wish to comment from the, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I am Julia Ratafrata, the mayor of the city, 2911 Melissa Circle in Fitchburg. So I am here also, I'm going to echo what Patrick mentioned. I am here to support if you can reconsider and change the name to Blaney Parks instead of the Farmstead Park, because I think it make more connection with the land and the history of this family in the city. And also I would recommend you in the future, I think I sent an email to you today about in the future it would be great if we can, for future parks naming, if we also find the advice from the Fitchburg Society, the Fitchburg, what is Historical Society, sorry. The Fitchburg Historical Society, because I think they can give us some, background about the history of the land, the place, and I think they should be part of this process, the naming process. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi Reynolds.
Just a question. I am neither for nor against the name Farmstead, but I'm guessing that the name was chosen because of that area. There probably were a lot of farmstead homes, and I'm just wondering. I'm not sure who came up with the word farmstead, but as I said, I'm not really opposed or for farmstead, but I think sometimes having a name other than a family name also sort of gives a little more history and a little more depth to an area. But I'm just wondering, does anybody know what went into choosing the word farmstead?
Well, first, I'll answer that quickly. I don't think so. But what I should have done is close the public comment before I recognized you to speak. So I apologize. I knew I was going to do that, possibly.
Our public hearing is still open at this point,
Yes,
Heidi,
I
so
didn't-
we'll let whoever wants to speak, and then
Yeah.
when we're good, then we'll close that, and
Yeah.
then go to the commission.
I apologize.
No worries,
Is there
no
anybody
worries.
else here who would like to speak? All right. So I will now close the comment period. Go ahead.
If there are public comments that have been submitted in writing, emails, letters, or anything, they should be read to the public in this meeting out loud.
I don't, we haven't in the past. Well, if we have, I don't know that we've ever consistently read all of them. So I don't anticipate controversy here because the developer is suggesting the change to Blaney Farms Park. So, and that's shown on our documents in the packet. And go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. The name being proposed to us to approve is Blaney Farms Park, so I don't think there's any cause for alarm, but we've received emails, as Patrick is alluding to, of other people in support of that, as we have prior months. And I thought am I crazy? I thought this has come before us when we voted on the name, the Blaney name already, like for this as a thought.
No, what we did is, we had the first proposal by the development, and then that opened up a 60-day public hearing process. That's when we received the comments from the public. So actually, the process worked good, because then we received some additional comments, and Hartung, as you mentioned, they took in consideration those comments and changed their proposal to include Blaney, so that's before us to be recommended to the council. So the process worked good.
Well, and actually, we did vote then to accept them, but at the same time, it was the beginning of a two-step process, so there was always the eventuality that it would be changed. Yeah, we started with accepting what they proposed, then the public comment follows, and then really even before the meeting, the developer has decided to go ahead with that Blaney family name for the park.
Blaney is now named in the development more often than Hartung, so they ought to be proud of that.
They've got a street and a park. Okay. So now we have closed the public comment, and did we get a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I'll second. Is there any other comment before we vote? Those in favor of accepting the names Blaney Farms Park and Hartung Park as suggested, and Perennial Park Greenway is also listed in their letter, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. So that's approved. 5D is Resolution R4424, approval of the 2024 spring tree planting plan. I'll move to approve it. Any second?
Second.
Okay, and Scott, I see Anna is ready to answer or speak. Do you have any other remarks?
Well, I can just kind of paraphrase that Anna did work on the spring tree planting plan. It does include 262 trees. We actually received 8 qualified bids, and staff is recommending to go with RSB Trees for $62,880. And certainly if Anna has any other comments, or certainly can answer some questions if needed.
Anna, go ahead. Let us
Yeah,
know.
I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Does the price include the trees also at $62,000?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, trees, installation, a year of maintenance, and a warranty.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Anna. Now, all of this is
Sure.
This is mostly areas you've designated in parks and then new development, correct?
Yes.
The roadside
Yes.
new development. So you really don't know the damage of tree deaths from drought or other, auto crash damage, and that's handled separately at a different time? Like next year, you'll...
Well, we do from our 2023 tree planting, I have warranted 23 trees. So Last year we planted 401 trees, and I did warranty 23. So, and I have till June 1st to finish that warranty period. So, yeah, that's the most we've ever warranted, and it's because of the drought.
Okay. So you're just trying to take a quick look everywhere you can to get as many of those included in the warranty before that date, correct?
Yep. So we look in the fall to see, okay, what's looking good, what's looking like it might not make it through the winter, and we take notes, and then we looked again. I looked again this past February when it was 75 degrees, and some things were confirmed dead; they didn't make it through the winter. And then I'll look again, probably in a couple weeks here, and see, well, maybe in a month or so, and see kind of how things look, and we'll see. But we're up to 23, so it's yeah.
Yeah, more than usual. Thank you. Heidi, you have a question?
Yes, you're welcome.
Just in regards to the warranty, have you found in the past that they honor that without issue,
Yes.
or they do? Okay,
Yeah.
good. I was just curious.
No question. Yep, no questions. We just give them the list, they replace the trees.
Okay, go ahead.
So one general question, just to have a better understanding, as we're thinking about climate adaptation with our tree inventory moving forward, what considerations are we thinking about species and drought resistance and those things? And just a general comment, nothing too deep, but just as we're thinking about that inventory and species, climate change, et cetera, how are we managing those considerations?
We're trying hard. I mean, we have a whole variety of different trees we are trying. It's diversity is the key to that. And I don't think anyone really has the answer. But you're right, warm winters kill trees. And we had a lot of temperature spikes this past winter. I don't know what to say about that other than, I mean, we try and do our best. And you can see, I mean, that's the list. We plant a pretty decent variety of trees, and we're always trying different things.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yep, you're welcome.
No other questions or comments? All right, those.
I'll just add
Go ahead.
I'll just add a comment that, per usual, that I appreciate the diverse species selection, and it really does a great job of choosing not only diverse species. Looks like it's probably 70% natives or cultivars of natives, which will, to Chris's point, will help improve their resiliency. And also there are some interesting things in here that most cities aren't brave enough to try as street trees, and I'm very excited to see them in our city. So thank you for that.
Well, that
Yes,
is.
awesome. Thank you for.
Well, that's high praise when your landscape architect realizes the good work you've done. So bravo to that.
I agree. Thank you. I yes.
Go ahead.
You found a elm tree that is resistant to the Dutch elm disease. I was, as a teenager, we saw my hometown and our forested land on my family owns, lose all our elms, and they found a hybrid that is immune.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's several cultivars that in theory are immune. We've tried a couple over the years, and I'm still trying a few out. The ones that we're trying now are a little different than some of the ones we've done in the past. But yes, there are some cultivars that are hybrids with a variety of different Asian elms that are resistant. And so I'm always trying, pushing the envelope, trying to see what works the best here.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Anything else? All right. Those in favor of the tree planting, spring tree planting contracts, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
I didn't print my pages right. CD. We're on 5E, Resolution R5524, approving new playground and swing set structures for Arrowhead Park. A motion to approve?
Move to approve.
A
Second that motion.
Okay. Go ahead, Scott.
So this is one of our, well, thank you, Scott, one of our replacement playgrounds at Arrowhead. We did publicly bid the project, and I believe we received seven proposals. And what I did is I sent a letter to the Chalet Gardens, and then there's also another complex that is adjacent to Arrowhead, and we did receive some feedback, and they recommended, along with city staff recommended. Oh, I didn't. I'm on the wrong one. I believe it's the Lee Recreation. We received 7 proposals. Lee Recreation option 1 is the proposal. And let me get to it. That staff is recommending for this playground replacement.
Okay.
Let me see. Big packet, you guys.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
page
my God.
184, I think.
184, you say?
I think. I'm looking at, it says option 1 on that page. 184 of the 482.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Is that the one?
You tell us.
Yep, that's the one.
Okay. I'm just curious now, why is the staff recommending it over the others?
Well, and actually, we did receive some votes from the neighbors, and this was the proposal that they did recommend.
Okay,
So
all right.
it's-
So staff didn't have any particular reason?
No, but certainly I think it has a great play value, and with the neighborhood being in favor of it, I don't see why we wouldn't go ahead and approve
Right.
that one.
And it looks familiar, like it's been installed
Well, and that's
elsewhere?
actually not the one.
That's not it?
No, it's Lee Recreation. I think it's this one. Lee Recreation option 1. Well, their option 1, it's option 5, sorry. So this is the one that was selected.
Got it.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I just add, this design works well. This is very similar to what we have in the Pocket Park down the street from my house, and it serves the children very well. So I think this design will be great.
I would say that just to me, like at heart, this is more appealing to the other option one that we looked at. It just has a little more elements to it. I like it. I like the color scheme. It feels like it could incorporate a little older age range as well. The other one seemed a little younger. But yeah, this one's a little, I like the design too, I agree.
It may be a little bit about our process. What we do is we put a budget on the playground, and then we send it off to the playground design group, and then they put together a design. And certainly one of the criteria that we want to look at, as you identify, Christopher, is the play value. So this certainly has the most play value of the proposals that we received.
Okay. No other comments or questions? All right, those in favor of R 5524, new playground and swing set structure for Arrowhead Park, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
None opposed, that motion carries. 5F, Resolution R 5624, accepting subdivision improvements for Second Amendment to the agreement for subdivision improvements in the plat for Crescent Crossing.
And this is the first time that what we did with the Crescent Crossing development is typically what will happen is the developer will give us dollars, and then we as a staff will go out and create the park and design the park. But what happened with this development is Crescent Crossing, they took it upon themselves to come up with the design and install the playground. And actually, it's to a point now where they're looking to receive the credit, if you would, for the cost of the improvements and the installation. and staff has reviewed it and are happy with the product. So now it's time for us to accept the improvements, and then at the end of the day, which is interesting with this project, is that we'll receive, there'll be I don't want to say a surplus, but there'll be additional dollars that will remain in the park improvement account, which we'll utilize when we implement the Stoner Prairie Park plan. So, and this is kind of a summary of that process. The memo provided by Mr. Day.
Any questions? David?
Scott, this is for the dog park and then that little kind of pocket park or playground in front of the homes.
Correct. Did we get a first and a second by chance?
I think I seconded.
Oh, you did? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Very good. Yep, that's correct, Dave.
Heidi, go ahead.
Just a question. Do we have a photo of the finished product?
I do not, Heidi, but I could certainly, I'll put it down as a note, and I'll get some pictures and get them sent off to you guys. That's a good point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just one comment on that. We had this at Board of Public Works, and the question came, can anyone use the dog park? Which we replied, obviously, yes. You know, all Fitchburg parks are open to all residents. So that question came up.
Open to the public. Yep. The whole community.
Any other remarks or questions? Okay, those in favor of accepting subdivision improvements for R 5624, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank you.
That motion carries. We are now on 5G, the Capital Improvement Plan 2025 to 2034. We have a public comment.
Oh, okay.
Patrick, right? Patrick Cheney of 5211 Kitty Crest.
Yes, two things. On page 226 of your whole packet of 482 pages, there is a line hidden down in here on project 6259, way down towards the bottom. It used to say McGaw Park volleyball posts. Now it's been changed, which makes it harder to find and less easy to know what it's about. But it's about the McGaw volleyball posts that I have objected to for like half of a decade at least. And it's still on here for 2024. It's listed as 10,000, and I know that was changed at the council last year to be 15,000, and it says levy. And if you look right above, it says all funded by levy. That means property tax bills. All of yours and all of our property taxes are being used to pay for this. There is nothing wrong at all with the McGaw volleyball posts, and this should be removed, and this is probably your very, very, very last chance to do something about it, as this park commission has always said that you would. And it's still here. I know that Sarah is not at the meeting right here, so I remember that Sarah said that she did go out and look at these posts in McGaw, and she agreed that there's nothing wrong with the volleyball posts, and sort of agreed to removing them. She talked about that in the past. I know that Dave met me out there and looked at them. I'll let Dave speak for himself. So this should be removed off of here and not waste $15,000 of property tax money to replace perfectly good posts. Go look at them yourself and you'll see. And if you want, I'll meet you out there and point out to you they're perfectly good. They work fine. The winders on them do not need replacing. They work just fine. I've proved that already. Sent pictures and things like this in the past. The other item is on page 232 of the whole packet of 482 pages, and there's a line on there, it's for 2029. McGaw Park, Fahey Fields, it's not Fahey Fields, it's McGaw Park. Parking lot, this would be next to the pickleball courts. 300,000 scheduled for 2029. I'm wondering how this even got on here, because the Park Commission never approved this being on here or discussed it, and it just showed up, and now it's here. And that, I will say, is completely unnecessary. The parking lots, the main parking lots there have never filled up with the pickleball courts usage ever since they opened up, and this would be a waste of good recreational space to put a very badly designed parking lot there, which does not work. So this should be removed off of there.
Thank you. Heidi? Wait.
Well, just a question. What was the reasoning going into replacing the posts as well? I mean, just to answer Patrick's questions, as well as adding or increasing the size of the parking lot at McGaw.
I didn't do the motion.
I don't know if Scott can speak to that.
Well, and actually, before I do, just as a clarification, the CIP that I've included in your packet, that's the approved by the Common Council for 2024. So those projects have already been approved, so we really can't go back and change those. And I just put this in here for reference. We're actually doing the 2025 through 2034. So the 2024 projects have already been approved. So.
Okay. And I apologize, I didn't ask for the motion to approve the...
There's no resolution, is there?
Oh, we're discussing.
We're just, yeah.
All right.
I believe, don't correct
You're
me if
right.
I'm wrong.
I'm sorry.
And actually, what I am doing here is the CIP is due to the finance director on April 9th. So what I'm doing is bringing it before the Park Commission to get your thoughts and ideas, so that I can incorporate them into the and actually it is an action item, so we could discuss and take action. Like I say, I'm working to get the CIP submitted to the finance department next week.
Okay.
So I think we could certainly approve, in a second, and then we take some amendments, and then I'll incorporate those into the proposal to the finance department later next week.
So you do want a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll move approval for discussion here.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay.
Chris, okay.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say, I proposed an amendment to remove the posts at council, and I was voted down 7-1. I had gone down and looked at them. I believe I was the only one, and I believe it is unnecessary, and at worst, we go to a boat store and buy a new winder and bolt it there. They're not needed, but can't do anything about that. But I agree with Patrick, the 2029, add another parking lot. You're going to play pickleball, so you have to walk 50 yards to get over to the court. I've been using that park for I'm going to be going on 4 decades here, and even when we used to have softball on all the fields at night and soccer, never had that parking lot. Even when we had fireworks at McCaw Park, we never had that parking lot filled up. So I just don't feel that's a good that's a good use of the money. Now I expect that it's parkland dedication, and that's why it's in here. But I think we could find a better use for the parkland dedication than another parking lot that we have to maintain. If you have to walk 50 yards to go play pickleball, you're going there for the exercise anyway. I'm sorry.
And I think if we could, we'll start right at the beginning and kind of roll through them, and then as the comments come up, can discuss them and get a second and all of that kind of stuff, and then we'll get it approved as amended if we do have some amendments. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Very good. So let's, and this is a good review of the CIPs that we have within the park system. The first one that we have is for Moraine Edge Park, and you can see that in 2029 there is $2 million allocated. And actually, what the policy, I don't know if it's a policy, but typically what will happen is the approval of the CIP within 5 years. That will afford staff the opportunity to begin to start to work on it, so that the $2 million in 2029, if it's approved, when we approve the 2025 to 2034, when the council looks at that and approves it, that would fall within that 5-year time frame. So staff, in theory, could begin to start to work on that. The next one, park system improvements. This is 6259. This is when I talked about the park improvement dollars and the fee in lieu of parkland dedication. These are the dollars that we're beginning to start to set aside to repair things that we have within the park system. And you can certainly understand that when you look at actually in 2024, we've got a handful of projects in 6259. Then in 2025, we begin to start to think about painting, or we're proposing to paint the gazebo in Chicory Meadow, replace some playground in Chicory Meadow, in 2025, do some playground upgrades. So those are the projects that we've got scheduled for improvement in the years that correspond to that. That's where those kinds of projects are housed. And certainly, if you've got any thoughts or comments or questions as we roll through these, I see Heidi's got her hand raised.
Well, so I just wanted to go back a little bit where Dave had mentioned about the parking lot and how it was unnecessary. And I didn't know, was that an actual amendment proposed there, or was it just a comment?
Well, there is, when we get to it, Heidi, you'll see where it's proposed, and then Dave provided the comment, but let's roll through these other ones, and then when we get to that one, then we can talk specifically about that. Sound good? So 6259, any thoughts or comments on that? I will tell you that one of the recommendations that staff has, instead of having the $40,000 for playground, we're thinking to have $50,000, because $40,000 is getting to be a little bit not enough, if you would, and we're looking to increase that to $50,000. In case in point, when I mentioned we've got 40 playground structures within the park system, and they typically will last maybe 20 or 25 years. So in theory, we should probably be replacing 2 of the playground units every year, so that would increase from 50 to 100. But I think what I was tasked to do this year is to go out and do an inventory, and we have preliminary inventories and the conditions of all the facilities, but go out and do a little bit better job or more thorough job of that. And then when we come back with the CIP proposal in next year, then we'll try to put some additional dollars, hopefully, in this account to do those replacements, if you would.
So a question on this section, again, to the comments around the volleyball posts, just to understand how that was identified as a need to allocate the dollars for process, and if there was something specific that we should be aware of in regards to how this was identified.
I'm not following.
There's some questions around the need to replace the volleyball posts. Yep. And so from the park side, how was that identified? Just in regards to the process, and is there a real need? I just want to understand that.
Well, in typically there's life expectancies for all of the amenities within the park system, and the volleyball standards are way past their prime, if you would. So the idea of replacing them when it's time to replace them is really what our thought process is, to update equipment and because at some point it'll fail, so trying to be a bit proactive, if you would, because everything has a life expectancy, right? So you want to try and replace amenities within the park system before they become dangerous or fall apart, or so it's kind of a proactive process to try and get the stuff up to date and in good repair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So any 6259, and as I said, we're going to do some additional work, so there might be some in the future. We're looking to try and get some additional dollars allocated so we can continue to upgrade and replace the amenities that are at their life expectancy. Yep.
The Jamestown Hegel path, that path is Madison. That path is in Madison. The power line where it goes along the ball. The path is in Madison. Just so.
The Hugo Jamestown path lighting adjustment adjacent to
the path.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the path itself is in Madison.
Well, and actually where this is going to go, if you're familiar with, you are with Hugo Jamestown, where we've got the seating by the ball diamond.
Yeah.
And then there's a walking path that goes down to the diamond and another one that goes down. So the idea of having lighting within that area, not on the path, Dave. It's more in that area that people sit and that kind of thing.
Understood. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Then the next one is tennis pickleball courts. And this one actually, what I'd like to, because there has been some discussion about the Chicory tennis courts at Chicory Park, and for one thing, the idea of the funding source being grants and donations. I think we've received feedback at the council level that really isn't a good process to try and get these replaced. What staff is doing is we have two tennis courts at McGaw, 2 at Swan Creek, and 2 at Chicory Meadows, which are really to some degree in the same condition. And we are hearing that there's interest from the council to get some recommendations from staff and the park commission on what we might be able to do to try and get these facilities repaired or replaced, if you would. And thoughts that the staff has is in order to try and keep the cost, because it's typically about $100,000 in order per court to replace it. So the idea of, and these parks have 2 tennis courts side by each. So the idea of, instead of replacing the 2 as a compromise, we could replace 1 of the tennis courts at Chicory Meadows. And then actually a thought regarding because Swan Creek and McGaw are close in proximity, to decide which of those 2 parks might receive 2 tennis courts, and then the other ones would be removed. But those are thoughts that we're thinking about at staff, and just trying to get some feedback and thoughts from the park commission on what you might recommend. And then, like we did with the tennis courts and the pickleball courts, once they're repaired, then what we would do is we would put an annual allocation in the CIP, so that in 20 years, when they need to be replaced again, that we would have the dollars available to replace the courts, if you would. So at this point, it's really kind of a catch-up. And like I say, what staff is recommending here to include, for example, for Chicory Meadow tennis courts, that idea of the $160,000, because we do have a basketball court that's adjacent to Chicory Meadow that should also be replaced. So that $160,000 might be appropriate, but the funding source would be more of the general property tax or levy to pay for it. And then we've got McGaw, and then actually Swan Creek is also included in there, so that in the future, it might be a case of we put $200,000 in there, and we would replace 2 of the courts, remove the 4 courts, and then replace them with 2 at a location. So I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
Go ahead.
I would just tell you, all 3 of those courts you mentioned are in bad shape, but I have a neighborhood association that's been beating down my door for, since I became their alder, asking, let's fix this. I haven't heard anything from the other ones. I'd like to see those. I'd like to see Chicory Meadow get fixed. Anyone that rides by in the path, those are used all the time. I'm not as concerned about the basketball court, but the tennis courts, and when we stripe them for pickleball also, those are used a lot. That's a lot of people. That's on the Capital City bike trail, and people are going by there. And my amendment was to use ARPA TID money for that instead of tax levy. And I think there's things in the ARPA TID that aren't, we could not do and get this done. Let's maintain our existing facilities before we're spending money on new things that we don't have money to maintain in the future anyway. So that's my comment.
Heidi Reynolds?
Just a general comment. I hesitate at this point to endorse anything that is going to involve the use of, needing a tax levy or increasing of any sort of taxes. I mean, people are suffering out there, and Dane County, our cost of living is about 17% higher than the national average. And I think, not that these are not good proposals and things don't need to be fixed, but when people aren't making it paycheck to paycheck, it's difficult for me to endorse fixing a basketball court or a tennis court. So I guess I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I heard from somebody about Chicory Meadow Park in general, and if I've got this straight, it's the largest area park. And there are some community parks that are smaller than this area park.
That could be, yeah.
The person I heard from was making the case that Dave made in part just now, how busy that park is. People are coming through from all different directions, and I don't have firsthand information about that. I'm told it's very heavily used. And we don't answer my next question while we're sitting here tonight, but what would the process be of changing that to a community park where some of the amenities there that serve that larger group of people would have access to other funding sources? And you probably don't know the answer to that, but...
Well, but if you're thinking the funding source for the repair of the Chicory, that wouldn't qualify.
Right, it wouldn't unless it's something
qualify.
new.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right.
All right. Darn it. That takes care of
Yeah,
that.
it's a
Contention, that you can't fix Chicory Meadow because it wouldn't be fair to the other neighborhoods.
right.
And I said, well, life isn't fair. Life isn't fair. Not everything can be done equal. That's the only park in the whole area, and they should have some tennis courts and pickleball courts.
Yeah,
they can use.
well,
they're unusable and they're unsafe right now. And the people up there, I'll be honest with you, Sue, it's their choice, but they pay a lot of taxes, and they don't ask for much. They're not in here demanding things from the city all the time. They pay the high taxes. I think we could fix their tennis court. They should get something out of what they're paying.
Understood.
And I agree with Heidi. Yeah, I don't want this, I don't think it should be a levy on the taxes. I feel we should use ARPA TID money that we have and remove some of the new projects in the ARPA TID that we have and use them for this.
Did you make, what, you tried to make the case at the time?
This was the case I made at council.
Yeah. Same vote? 7-1?
No, it was approved, I made an amendment to include it in the ARPA TID.
Oh, okay, so
In the
this.
ARPA TID, and it was passed 5-3.
Okay, so this one is ARPA TID. All right. Other comments, or should we go on? I think we can go on.
Can I ask one other?
Sure, go
If I'm
ahead.
on the right one here. Make sure I'm on the same page.
So
228.
220, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm on the wrong page on my
62,
computer.
63.
Yeah, on page 228. Do you have a comment then, or no?
No.
No, okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, the next one is large shelter, 6264. And we're doing a lot of work in 2024. So there isn't anything really, and I do see on the bottom, you do see a replacement fund, which goes annually to eventually create a balance, so we could potentially in the future do another shelter. What we're doing with these dollars is we're doing McKee, we're re-siding McKee, and then we're also redoing Tower Hill. But the funding for the Tower Hill is the ARPA TID. So that's that one. New park development. That's really all of our parkland dedication fees and new development within the community. A lot of projects going on there.
Make it bigger, Patrick. Hard to read. Yeah, okay.
Do you want me to, here I can, sorry about that. That better? Or is that too big?
No, that's good.
Is that good?
Much better.
I'm sorry, so that's a new development. I'll roll through these a little bit slower maybe. And these are all funded through our park improvement fees and fee in lieu of parkland dedication. Then the next one is a recreational circuit, Dunn's Marsh. And actually, I think that was pushed off to 2029.
What is that?
And that one.
Is that a board,
What-
like a
what-
boardwalk?
That's like a boardwalk, and I think that may have been removed due to a path that's actually along Seminole.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you that if you put that in, it'd be a boardwalk that you'd have to build through the swamp, and if you cross Seminole,
Yeah.
you have a paved path on the other side.
So
I just don't think that would be is necessary.
Yeah, it's been hanging out there. That was Alder Krause proposal. But are you saying, Scott, now you think it's actually
well, I
completely
don't
removed?
know. I guess I shouldn't say that.
Yeah. Well,
Is that-
one of the things going back a ways, talking about it, is then you have to plow the boardwalk, and you didn't have the equipment at the time to plow boardwalks, I think, when I asked you.
So what I'm actually doing is I'm making a little bit of a list here. The volleyball. Well, I think the volleyball standards, that one is kind of because it's approved. But I'm putting down tennis courts and the boardwalk. So at the end of the day, then we'll kind of make a decision on all of those.
Right, and so one of my questions is, because I'm not sure I'm remembering correctly, but if a boardwalk were installed, we don't have the equipment to plow the boardwalk, I was told back then, I think. So
Oh,
then
I
we'd have
thi-
to buy some equipment?
No, I think we'd be able to. We'd have to make it wide enough that we could get our vehicles on there.
All right,
Yeah.
I think you need we'd have to have a malaria vaccine station by it though, too. That's mosquito heaven there. That's a poor idea to put that through.
Well, and I think,
Unnecessary.
right.
You know, where the Cannonball goes, Scott, you know, there's a section where there's boardwalk in there. It was kind of along the railroad track. That made sense. But here you'd have to get down in that. You might have to get an environmental impact statement. I don't know. It's just poor. It's unneeded.
And certainly, I think at the end of the day, what we can do is we can take a motion and then a second, and then Park Commission will recommend that it's removed, if that's what you'd like to do.
Okay. Now, before we move on, Steve
Sure.
Arnold asked if he could comment quickly.
I just wanted to add that Transportation and Transit Commission and probably Public Works are going to be talking about adding another rectangular rapidly flashing beacon, the alert lights for the crosswalk at the Cannonball. Mm-hmm. And so that will make the path on the east side of Seminole more accessible for those who want to circulate around the marsh. So I certainly would agree that it was a great idea at the time, but this probably supersedes it.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
very
thank you.
good.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you, Steve.
Heidi is coming.
Oh, Heidi.
Sorry, I just, I have to agree with Dave. I'm not sure what would be the point of putting a boardwalk there. I'm sure we would run into some sort of environmental issues, number one, but again, the mosquitoes, I agree with him. I mean, the marsh is not exactly, I just don't understand what the point would be. I mean, is there a plan at some point to have vendors or, some sort of retail area where, people can go have ice cream, or is it just, another green spot where people can walk? I guess I'm just curious what the point of the boardwalk would be.
House's her rationale was it would give you you could go all the way around the marsh without crossing the street. So that was, that she felt there was validity in that. And given the obstacles, and as Steve mentioned, we have a flashing light for safety. I don't think crossing Seminole, if you want to loop the marsh, is.
And that may have been prior to the path going along Seminole, so that might have even been when Alder Dorothy proposed it. I think that was even prior
Possibly,
to where that path on the one side of Seminole was built.
As they say in German, vielleicht, perhaps, yeah.
Okay. So the next one we've got. What do we got here? We got neighborhood, phase one of the hub, which is, I can give you a brief update on that. We're looking to go to bid on the 17th of April, hopefully, with bids to come back on the 10th of May and continue on the implementation of phase one of the hub. And then we've got additional info on that. Well, phase two of the hub, I think that too is kind of pushed out to determine whether phase two will happen. So that's in the future there. Got some pictures. Teen Center. I know they're currently working on the Teen Center. And I think this was the most logical location to have the CIP for the Teen Center.
I have a question on background first. Why was it identified as the need for a teen center versus a community center or support for families? Because there was a separate committee that came forward to bring this project to the council and to us, right?
Well, and yeah, that's a good question, Sue.
I can answer.
Go ahead, Dave.
Dave.
Thank you.
identified as a teen center because Alder Maldonado had a favorable experience with the teen center in Milwaukee where he grew up and felt it would be an asset. You know, when a teen center in my neighborhood, it's down the street from me. I feel a community center, as you mentioned, a community center that would be more valuable is the way to go. A teen center, we have, you know, I just to have it singular for a teen center, I think is short-sighted. Early childhood reading center, reading and math. We can have we could get the county a social worker to help tenants with issues. We could have our teens for social and academic, but it should not just be a teen center. It's poor use of funds.
I think just to go on that question, I think it would be good to hear some of Alder Maldonado's thoughts on that and differentiate between community and teen and why teen center was thought of and why that was proposed. I do know that for this area, this section of the city, that there are really a lack of spaces for teens specifically to be, and this is one way to have a space specifically for teens. Whether that could be also addressed through a community center perspective, I'd love to hear from Alder Maldonado in regards to that reasoning. I'm sure he already made that comment through the process, but maybe that's some research I need to do. But or unless Dave, you have some thoughts on that.
I live right there, Chris, and I'm down with those teens all the time. We don't need a center dedicated just to teens. Some space. I think you and I would agree with some space, but like I say, I live there. I've lived there for 37 years. I know the neighborhood, and I want to help it. But having a dedicated just for a teen center, I think the community needs the space, and not just the teens. Nothing against our teenagers. I want a bright future for them, but I want a bright future for the whole neighborhood.
As I understand, they're still going through that evaluation process to determine what would be the best use of a facility. So, and like I say, it's just kind of housed here because they didn't really have another location for it to be placed.
My last comment for Dave is I view that as a yes and versus a either or, and so so thanks.
Okay.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Hope.
Just to confirm, are we referring to the building that is, well, literally across the street from my building, which used to be the former A1 Furniture? And now houses Little John's, or is there another building?
Yeah, they haven't gotten that far, Heidi.
At the very beginning of the process, there were eyes on that building. I think Heidi's right, but then they sort of pulled back and said we have to do a lot more.
A lot more work.
More work.
Yeah. And that work is
Right,
currently
well, because there are
undertaken.
There are prices in there that say the property is at 1.65, and then if you go up here, and then another 1.3 to remodel, which brings it up to about 3 million, which is, I think, frankly, way too much money for what we're looking to do. But so that's why I was wondering, I mean, if there are they just assuming that the property size is going to be 1.6, or do they have something specifically in mind?
Well, and I guess in fairness, Heidi, they're still working on those questions and function of the facility, and to some degree, this is really at the council level, if you would, Heidi. They just needed a location to place the CIP, so the council is really having these discussions, and then they'll decide what direction they'd like the city to go. So it's really, these are all good questions and thoughts, but this is really at the council level at this point, if you would.
Go ahead.
They just needed a home to to put the dollars.
Yeah, I'm not going to propose an amendment to remove this, but
No.
what I would tell you is, I'm in favor of renting space to get the concept, prove the concept and see how it's used. You know, the school district is looking at building possibly an elementary school down there. So if that was being built, we could dovetail into that and a lot less money, but our plan should be, we should rent space, get the thing going. If it proves to be successful, which I hope it would, and we look at other plans, but we're going to throw $3 million at this right off the bat. You know, if you look, a mile away is the Boys and Girls Club, half-mile away is the Building Trades Training Center. You have assets that other communities don't have. You know, I hear many times other alders say, well, every city has a community center or this or that. Well, this is really a small area. The kids aren't coming from the far side of Fitchburg. This is at the end. And we have other assets. So I think the reasonable thing to do is rent space, get this thing up and running, and see where things fall. The other thing you need to keep in mind is right up the street here too, within I don't know how many years, there'll be the second high school in the Verona School District, and that'll only be 2 miles from this location. You know, so now the high school being 6 miles, it's not really feasible. Well, all of a sudden now our high school is a short distance, relatively short distance from the neighborhood. It becomes a different issue. So I think it is very short-sighted to spending this type of money for this when we should rent space, get it up and running, and see how things shake out. And you know, what gets presented is Dave Herbst is the devil and he doesn't care about kids, and that I know that's what's out there. I see it every day. I'm told it, and that's not the case. But I want to help as many kids as I can for the least amount of dollars, and you know, and that's where I go. You know, I spend my life helping the kids in my neighborhood. You know, that's what I do all the time. So don't, you know, this is thrown at that he's a greedy old son of a bitch that doesn't care about kids, and that is nothing could be further from the truth. But I oppose building this thing right now. You know, we can get it up. We can rent space and get it up and going. So I'll get off my soapbox.
Well, and you're the alder, and you're as the alder, you can pass along our comments that we've all given. I want to just mention, to reinforce my earlier comment, that if you're spending a certain amount of money and it's only going to serve teens, you'd hope those teens are in school during the school week, and that you haven't just created a building that really doesn't serve anybody else, young families or people who need those other social services that have been mentioned. So regardless of how it got started, I hope as they move along, they take our words to heart that simply a teen center, it might not be really the best use of dollars in that section of town.
I'll pass that along. I
right,
don't know if
thanks.
is that the sentiment, Christopher and Chris?
That's mine.
You know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, or Heidi.
I do not have
No,
prepared
I'm
statements.
agreeing with that. I think renting is probably the best idea. And, you know, I live in this neighborhood and I see the kids that need the help. And it's not just the teenagers. And I think it's families, it's the whole thing. And I think we have to also be mindful of what happened over at Warner Park when the teen center was put in. And it unfortunately became a magnet for drug activity. And we certainly don't want that to happen here. And I feel as if a family-oriented center is going to lower the likelihood of that quite a bit.
Thanks, everyone, for your comments.
Yes, much appreciated. Let's, the next one, it was a community tree gravel beds in 60, looks like in 2025. So that one is scheduled to happen next year. Kids Crossing Playground, this is another one that's kind of in the mix for 2026, which might be, as we talked about, Friends of the Fitchburg Parks, this might be a good maiden project for the group if that becomes a reality. Because it does say grant donations, and actually there's some TID closure dollars allocated for that. And that's it for the CIP. So I guess what I'm hearing and would be interested in is your thoughts on the tennis court idea, and then the boardwalk. What your thoughts are on 6271 regarding the boardwalk. So we can take those individually and get a first and a second. And
Okay, was there something about the parking lot? At the parking lots at
yep.
McGaw?
So
3 topics.
So parking lot at McGaw. The pickleball courts. Very good.
Yeah. So when we talked about, one of the things that, before we take votes, I don't think I said this earlier about the parking lots at McGaw. On the one hand, I pushed Scott to try to have people stop parking on the street there and smashing into our little trees. But where the lot would go, the people that are parking along the roadside wouldn't necessarily use the new lot anyway. The older lots are closer. One of the things I'd hope we would consider instead of putting in another parking lot is making sure that when tournaments are scheduled that they don't overlap. So if you have a pickleball tournament and it's not overlapping with a baseball tournament, we should do a study or see how many spaces are used at each of these types of events, and see if just repairing the lots that we have and staggering these events provides enough parking. That's something that I think we should try.
That would be difficult to do.
Well, I mean,
well, it's okay. We have just be then we'd.
Tournaments down there anymore, Scott?
I
used to play in them, but I don't know.
Not so much. So it's basically Mondays and Wednesdays, and for adult softball. There's larger events potentially on the weekend, which then would preclude pickleball tournaments and those kinds of things being on the weekend. I think that's just a real difficult thing to manage that. Okay, you can't have a pickleball tournament on this weekend because we've got a large park shelter rental on this weekend. It really becomes a bit to try and manage that. And really the idea of the additional parking lot is included in the plan for Fahey is an additional shelter on the west end there. And then actually too with the athletic fields on both the north and south, that would provide, because we do flag football on Saturdays on the north one, and we have soccer on the south one. So, and then if you have that, have a shelter rental on the weekend, you're going to have competing events, if you would, and to try and say, well, we can't have flag football on this Saturday because we've got a larger shelter rental event at McGaw on this Saturday would be pretty difficult to manage.
okay. So you want to go through, go ahead, Chris.
I was just looking at an aerial photo. It looks like, give or take, capacity for around 200 to 240 cars there, which seems like a lot for this park, but also I know I agree with Scott. Like we want them to be used as much as possible, as often as possible. So I don't know if that parking capacity is often full or not, but I'm also thinking about, we've recently talked about how the area by the pickleball courts is going to be expanded, and what we might do with that open field to the north of there in the future. So just with an eye on programming in the park, potentially expanding in the future. If parking is getting to be short now, that might be exacerbated in the future. So I don't like paving spaces that don't need to be paved, but I'm wondering if maybe it might be wise to keep it somewhere in the CIP to sort of assess as we move on and then determine whether or not it's needed. Because once it goes away, we all know how hard it is to get it back. But it's pretty easy to say, no, we don't need this.
I would second that proposal. I'm not a fan of paving in parks because once it's paved, it's hard to get that back right. And I need more information on the need for additional parking space. And it's a high cost.
And I might share on how it was injected into the CIP. This was included in the CIP by Mayor Julio Radafrada. So it wasn't an action of the Park Commission. That was included by the mayor for actually the lighting and the expansion. And then and what else is there? There's.
Is that all parkland dedication fee would pay for all that, Scott?
And I think she did change the funding source to be a partnership between park improvement fees along with donations. If I get to that one, oh, mercy.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting behind it if it's tax levy, to add the parking lot, I suspect.
Well, here, right here it is, in 62, 66. You can see in 2029, McGaw Park parking lot in paths, delayed from 2027 to 2029. Added some additional, and then the project grant donations equal to 50% of the construction cost. And then she also did include in 2029 the shelter. So that was inserted by the mayor at the last go round for the CIP.
Scott, I missed when it was too small. I didn't see it before. The open air shelter at the inclusive playground. Didn't we add? We added sunscreens there.
We've got it. Yep, we've got a sun shelter,
We
right?
have sun shelters. We need another something else there. It's somewhat sparsely used.
There's space to the south to have an open air shelter.
Do we need a shelter? We've had Kids Crossing for well over 20 years. No shelter. And,
Well, there is a shelter adjacent to it, actually. Kids Crossing.
Kids Crossing? Mm-hmm. No, it's not. It's the McGaw Park shelter, right?
Well, Kids Crossing is at McKee.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
what I meant. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got a shelter adjacent to Kids Crossing at McKee.
There is? Mm-hmm. Where is that?
To the east of Kids Crossing.
Oh, the playground?
There's the mayor. There's the mayor.
Because I was working in my office and watching the meeting, and I want to clarify something because there's something that is not correct. Regarding last year when in my first CIP, there was a push from the Fitchburg Chamber of Commerce to add more pickleball courts to the 8 that we have in McGaw Park, because we want to create this like a tournament site, okay, for future tournament to attract people, blah, blah, blah. The parking was included at that time and the lights. So I say, okay, if we are thinking this like a park, McGaw, create the pickleball area for attract regional tournament, I agree that maybe we can add the 4 pickleball courts plus the light, because if we want to have tournament, especially in fall, 4:30 is already dark, we can add some lights for those tournaments. The parking, I remember that I was in this committee when I was a commissioner, that I always was in disagreement to add more parking space there. And I added donation or whatever is grant, because the idea is if the Fitchburg Chamber is so interested in creating this parking lot, they should also be part of looking for the funds too. Okay? So I don't know, it mentioned donation, or whatever, but I want to understand from where it's coming. It should be more a sponsorship of money that in the future we decided that, yes, we need a parking lot in the next 5 years from here. I think because this is a regional area for tournament, and the Fitchburg Chamber is very involved in organizing all these events, we should ask for, they should help us to find those funding. I don't think they should come in from taxpayer of Fitchburg. We went to that. So that one, I want to clarify, this was the idea, and I moved that parking to 2029 because after, what I look when I do my CIP, I look at the next 5 years. After the 5 years, all of those projects, it's like it's a wish list. They can come and go, but for budgeting purpose, we look at the next 5 years, any project in the next 5 years, because I need to make those balance. And this is where our financial planners, they look at if we have the financial capacity to work on those 5-year projects. So that one I want to clarify. I move it to 2029. Maybe this year I'm going to move it to 2030 when I do my, when I revise the CIP. I'm going to look at all of that and start, seeing that I don't think they're relevant or they are my priorities, move it, and then council will decide to bring it back or whatever they want to do. But I want to clarify that point that about the pickleball court. I think that my goal is going to be the part for the pickleball tournament and courts. My key is going to be for the tennis court. This is where we're investing $1 million there, but that's it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Did you catch your breath yet?
No, because I was watching and I said, oh, they're talking about, and I want to clarify because I don't want to.
Thank you for coming down.
Appreciate you coming
Mayor.
down to straighten that out.
All right. So back, do we need an open air shelter for the inclusive playground? We have shade shelters, we have benches. Not sure if we need another structure that we're going to have to maintain. I'm not trying to discriminate against handicapped children, but I think we have a pretty nice setup there now with this. Once we added the shade shelters and we have benches, it's a really nice spot.
Is there one or two shade structures there?
There's one on the west side, just big enough for a picnic table on the west side. And then this would actually, if you're familiar with the grove of oak trees that are in between there's a space a little bit to the south that we could potentially put another smaller open air shelter for folks to have a picnic or whatever it might be. And certainly it could be a rentable space. So that was the thought with that.
Reservable, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We have the park right there with its shelter. I don't know. I don't think we need another building, to be honest with you. But
So we'll add that to the list of things to talk about.
sorry.
And I don't know how you want to do that, Sue. Take of them each individually, or
Well, that probably would be the least confusing.
sure.
So what do you have on the list?
Well, I've got the tennis courts, Chicory Meadow, Swan Creek. And as I mentioned, staff is taking the idea of allocating $1,000 or $100,000. And actually, let's go to that CIP. So right there, so in 2025, well, and as Dave indicated, there is ARPA TID dollars, but that may end up being not enough dollars in there, so the idea of including it in the CIP might not be a bad idea also. So I think the idea of keeping the $160,000 at Chicory Meadow, but then changing the funding source to tax levy. And then we could do the same with McGaw, and then also include Swan Creek, because that certainly is is one that needs to be looked at, to include $100,000 for each of those, to have the $200,000 and then work to determine if we're going to replace the one at McGaw with one, or if we're going to remove that one and then include two new tennis courts at Swan Creek.
You know, Scott, I think the council or the mayor's intent was they wanted the parks to, you know, make an evaluation of that, you know, what would be our best path forward, you know. Do we need to keep all three of them? I think keeping Chicory Meadows is, I think that needs to stay, whether at McGaw or Swan Creek. I don't know the usage of those ones, you know, I don't live in those neighborhoods as much.
I think they're probably all used, Dave. But the idea of, instead of removal, you know, you'd still try to replace half of them, if you would, and still have that ability in each of the different areas.
I understand where you're coming from.
I have two is, what's the difference between, or the distance between the courts at Swan Creek and McGaw, the tennis courts?
They're close. They're, you know, it's just right. So the idea that, you know, you could go to Swan Creek, if you wanted to play at McGaw, you could certainly go to Swan Creek and still be able to play tennis.
That's what I was wondering, because you'll have all the pickleball already at McGaw,
yeah,
and then just
yeah,
shift the focus
yeah.
of tennis
And
only to Swan Creek.
And with the idea of not removing the two pickleball court or basketball or tennis courts, you'd remove the two, but have one to replace the two, and it would be at Swan Creek in partnership with the other one that would be there. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the thought behind it, along with the Chicory Meadow.
There would be two courts at Swan Creek, none at
McGaw,
and one at Chicory Meadows.
Correct. That's the thought.
Does that sound like a reasonable thing for everyone to vote on?
I guess I have a concern in regards to equity across the existing courts and what the cost would be to bring them all up to what we need them to be at. If that number is available, rather than choosing between one or the other. I assume that you mentioned that they're all being used. So that creates a competition between those courts and less resources for folks to have that access to those courts.
Well, if you...
It's just the only reason it's easier for me to think about in those regards in this case is if there are no tennis courts at McGaw, there are 8 pickleball courts, which are, it's not, I know it's not the same game, but it's not too terribly different either for someone who wants to. And it's very close to just go across, as far as I can tell, as the crow flies, across Lacey Road, and then you're in Swan Creek, and there's courts there.
How many courts do we have total now? And we would be reducing the number of tennis
We'd be
courts?
reducing from 6 to 3.
Okay. So I think that if you were to ask tennis players and pickleball players, they tend to be in competition with one another for space. And so my question is, what would be the cost to upgrade to where they need to be for existing courts to remain?
$100,000 a court. Yeah, $100,000 a court. They need to be replaced. So
And then the council, though, had indicated that they're not wanting to go that far, correct?
Well,
They're not going to spend $600,000 or $500,000.
Well, we've, as you know, the Park Commission has been asking for dollars to repair the courts for some years, and we haven't received the funding. But now Chicory Meadow has kind of come to the forefront, and the residents have said, we want our tennis courts repaired. The idea was that the tennis courts within the community were going to be at McKee Farms Park, and the pickleball courts were going to be at McGaw. But then that would involve removing the ones at Chicory, removing the ones at Swan Creek, and removing the ones at McGaw, which seems pretty drastic, if you would. So a compromise might be to, instead of replacing the 2, let's replace the one at Chicory remove the one at McGaw, and then create 2 at Swan Creek. So we would be reducing the number of courts in our area parks from 6 to 3, would be the compromise, if you would.
Scott, am I correct that the amount of tennis being played is probably on the downswing a little bit, and the pickleball is on the upswing?
Well, probably, but I think the Chicory neighbors would tend to.
Chicory is dual stripe too, though. You know,
So is McGaw and Swan Creek. They're both, all 3 of them are lined, or all 6 of them are lined for pickleball.
Okay.
But they're in disrepair and they need to be replaced. So I guess what staff is thinking here, that instead of, because we haven't been able to secure the funding in order to replace them, let's go halfway. Let's see if we can't secure the funding to replace 6 of the courts with 3 is what the thought is.
Okay.
Okay. Well, without really even having to commit right now to whether one is at McGaw, or does the staff also think that the 2 should be at Swan Creek?
That would be our thought.
The staff recommendation is with what we have, our new courts would be 2 at Swan Creek and 1 at Chicory Meadow.
Right. And then that'll go to the council, and then Dave and his colleagues will decide what they might want to do.
Well, let's vote and see what happens. How's that?
Let it ride.
We'll let her rip.
Let it ride.
Everybody in favor of that proposal, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are you voting, Heidi?
I'm voting no.
Okay.
I am also voting no.
So, we should, the mayor wanted us to do some of these as roll call. Didn't she?
we can do
Didn't she
that,
make
sure,
a remark?
sure.
Well, we know what it is, but we'll start with Alder Herbst.
Aye.
Joe.
Christopher?
Christopher, no.
No. Okay.
I'm saying aye. Chris?
Aye.
And Heidi?
Heidi said no. Yeah.
No.
Oh, I started over with the roll call. Okay.
So
it does pass. Okay.
So the next one is the boardwalk, 6271.
I would move removal from the CIP.
Okay. Should we vote
I'll
on?
second that.
Okay.
And Heidi seconds, okay.
All right. Those in favor of removal of the boardwalk from the CIP, say aye.
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 Very good.
Okay. Nobody opposed?
Tennis courts. Just kidding.
So then the next one is the parking lot at McGaw, and I think the mayor came in and explained her rationale for that one, so.
Well, so she's proposing a challenge to the community, so for us to vote before we know whether the community responds is a little bit of a difficult position,
Right.
right?
Well, I think what she's saying is that if the project passes, in order for it to be fulfilled, is we would need to have half the funding secured before we would release the other half.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
It's 2029?
2029,
Okay,
yep.
I can-
2030, she said.
Well, she said she might move it to 2030, which
She
I
was
think
alluding.
that's probably a safe bet. So I think we're good with that one. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but
I think it's far enough down the road, and there are enough variables that we don't need to do anything on it. That's my opinion.
Just leave
I
it?
agree, Chris, yeah.
Yeah,
so we'll leave that one.
Okay.
Open air shelter at inclusive playground.
okay.
I'd like to move to remove that.
Okay.
Second that motion.
Second by Dave. Okay.
Okay, motion, or vote on removal of the open air play shelter, say aye.
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 Oppose?
Okay,
So you voted no on that?
One
Voted no on
opposed.
that, yeah.
You voted no? Okay. Very good. Are we good then? CIP?
We weren't going to discuss anything about the teen/community center because that's a bit farther down the road.
Yeah, I think well, I don't want to speak for the commission, but the park commission is really, or the CIP is kind of the home for that project. It's really being discussed at the council level. So I think we'll let the council continue that discussion, and then they'll decide what happens, I guess.
Can we at least let them know, oh, I'm sorry. Can we at least let them know our thoughts that some of us believe that maybe renting the first year or two to make sure that this is doable is a much better option than either buying or building?
Well, and I don't even know if it's been decided that we're going to do it, to be honest with you, Heidi.
It's coming back with a building. There's no, that's what's coming back. That's all, I'm sorry to say, that's what's coming back, and we're gonna have, you have to battle to.
That they're going to build it?
That's what's gonna come. I can't say for sure, Heidi, but I'm willing to bet money that's what's coming out of the study, yeah.
I would like to,
So no one's even considering, okay. Go ahead.
just for more information, because I don't have all the information, I have not watched the council on that. If we can invite Joe to give his perspective, I'd like to hear it.
Sure.
I would agree with that.
Scott's taking notes.
Maybe to the next
No,
meeting.
I can invite him to the May one so that he can talk about that. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so
Okay, we good with
I
CIP?
think we finished that.
Very good.
Good discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, it's very good, very helpful. Let's move on to Stoner Prairie. And what we've got, what I've included in your packet is, this is the construction documents that EOR has put together for Stoner Prairie. And maybe just a couple caveats to the project. And I should have probably included the park master plan for Stoner Prairie in the packet. But the implementation of the plan is only going to be a partial implementation, if you would. What we're going to include is the playground, the open air shelter. The basketball court is going to be, due to budget restraints, is going to be removed at this point. We're not going to build the basketball court. We aren't going to be doing any landscape trees at this point due to the budget. We are going to do the prairie. So it's basically going to be the shelter, the playground, the prairie, and then we've also included in the budget $150,000 towards the bathroom facility as part of the well house that's adjacent to the park. So with the budget estimates that we received, we wanted to make sure that we were going to be within the dollar amount that we do have. So that's how we came to that to that conclusion. And certainly what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring this before the Park Commission to see if they had any thoughts or final small tweaks to what we're looking to bid before we, because we're looking to get this out to bid on the 12th of April, and then actually come back to the Park Commission in May with the proposals, and then get it referred in May, and then back to the Board of Public Works, the Park Commission, and the Common Council for final approval in June. So
Scott, we approved the structures in the playground already, right?
Yep, we approved, well, at the end of the day, we approved the park master plan, the park commission did, and actually the council did also. Now we're, due to our budget, we're starting to implement the master plan that was approved.
Okay, thank you.
Heidi has a question too.
I'm just curious. I know over the course of the last couple of years, we've made several modifications that where we would say yes, we agree if this modification or this modification is made, and I'm wondering if everything that we've all agreed on has been put into this master plan.
I believe it has, Heidi, but certainly master plans are fluid. Certainly we don't want to do any major changes to the master plan. Is there something that you're seeing in here that's different than what the park commission approved, if you would?
Well, no, not off the top of my head. I know, there's some areas that I guess look a little different than what I remember. But this is also not the master plan, if I'm correct, right? This is the construction plan?
Yep, this is this construction plan of phase 1 of the master plan that we're looking at.
Okay. And I guess I would, since we've talked about this for so many meetings, and had been in agreement on, what we would like to see where and different things, I just, when you say that a master plan is fluid, that kind of makes me wonder if all of our amendments have been incorporated. And I guess that's just what I want to make sure.
Right, and I guess as I recall the amendments, what we did is we moved the basketball court from and that, I wish I would have included the master plan now, but we did move the basketball court. Well, we moved if you remember, the basketball court was more to this direction, but what we did is we moved it over a little bit to create some additional play space in the middle, if you would. There was some boulder landscape around the playground, so that was removed at one of the park commission meetings.
The page that you're on, right?
This one?
Where it's showing the basketball court. Go up one.
Yep.
Okay. Now that's the existing construction documents.
These are the construction documents, but we're not going to be doing the basketball court at this point.
But when we met with the neighbors, the basketball court got pushed all the way over into the space that shows the L-shaped prairie was not going to be L-shaped. It was going to be rectangular, and we moved the boundary down. Because the people living there wanted open play space between that semicircular playground for field play on that north side of that north-south, east-west path. So the actual motion pushed the basketball court all the way over almost to the north-south bike path. And then we broadened or made it of the existing prairie, it goes all the way across the top or the north boundary, but we made it a little deeper. It came down closer to that oval-shaped playground area. So this does not reflect what we voted on in front of all the people who live in that neighborhood before.
So you're saying then that this should be narrower?
Deep, wider, thicker.
Wider.
We made it longer going north to south. But that's the main width is east-west. That width east-west stayed the same. We made the part north of the playground come down, so that whole footprint in that section was bigger because the basketball court was moving from where you see it right now all the way west, and there is not an L-shaped prairie, it's a rectangular prairie.
So the prairie should come like this, you're saying?
Well, we had it, no, there is no prairie where your cursor is right now. The basketball court is in that part.
So you're saying the basketball court needs to be over here?
That's what the neighbors believe we voted on, because that's what we voted on. Do we rotate the basketball court? No, I talked about it, but everyone explained to me that that's not, you don't do that because of the sun orientation. So I did learn something
I want to guess that.
that I hadn't already known. But
Will there be a public hearing on this?
no, we're beyond it. So this just isn't accurate.
If the court doesn't go in, if we're not putting the court in, does it matter too much?
Well, is the court postponed, or is it eliminated?
It's postponed.
Oh,
It's still included in the master plan.
Well, then this is all not right.
Yeah, I don't want to spend time putting prairie in if at some point.
And
That's
money,
right.
it's not cheap.
Yeah,
you would know this.
here's what, I tried to copy it. It was our March 2nd, 2023 meeting, and it said, this is the exact minutes. After additional discussion about process forward, the motion was amended and seconded to approve adjustments to the plan and review for approval at a future meeting, which I believe we did. The following changes to address Neighbor and Parks Commission comments. Establish larger mode turf flex play area on the north side of the park by moving the basketball court east to an area adjacent to the north-south park path.
I wonder if I can pull up the master plan somehow.
The new toddler play equipment will be included where the new playground is established. Existing toddler equipment will not be replaced. Native plantings in the toddler play park node will be expanded to ease establishment and reduce mowing maintenance. So the one sentence is everything I'm trying to explain here. They wanted a larger mode turf flex play area on the north side of the path by moving the basketball court east to an area adjacent to the north-south park path. And that in effect, see, there it is. There's what we approved, but that's not what's in these drawings, in the construction.
So then the prairie then.
Is a
See,
long
This
strip.
is good.
Yeah. But, so my other issue, which isn't germane to today because these are construction documents, but the part, if you can highlight that again, you had it larger. The part where you see Scarlet Drive on the road, that note in the original park, the request that was made at several meetings and one time actually in the minutes, or in the motion, was to fill that whole space in with prairie. It shows these, little amoeba-shaped things. And we were losing so much, at the end, it was even a better justification to fill it in all the way across.
Well, and you know what, Sue? I'm glad we're looking at this. The small node there, now that's not included in anything that we're doing right now.
I know,
so-
but I'm tying it together, though, because that was part of the discussion when we were moving the basketball court over.
Are you saying that what you want to do is you want to just make the prairie this area?
Well,
And then not include the prairie over
The
here?
construction document should reflect the updated master plan.
yeah, it's
in
not
there.
what I want, it's what we voted on.
So it's, okay.
That's,
Steve registered to speak on this. Do you want to hear what he?
yes, I'm really sorry. I apologize. Go ahead.
Thank you. If I may, I just want to say one sentence about the capital improvement plan. The consolidation of tennis courts in just 2 places or 3 is going in the opposite direction of our transportation plan, making everybody drive to play tennis. So I just wanted to put that out there. On this item, I had sent to Scott, when I saw the construction diagrams, that you're calling for some bike racks that are made in Wanakee, and we have been using around the city a competitive product that's manufactured in Fitchburg and by Saris, and I would urge you to use those instead. And you are calling for the Saris Public Works Stand, and that's of the type that we have on the Capital City Trail along East Clayton Road and at the hub, but it's the old style with the tools hanging on cables. And I think that you should be specifying the deluxe work stand, which costs about $250 more, but the tool cables are all enclosed inside the housing, and there's no air pump, and you should specify the accessory air pump for the deluxe work stand and the wheel chock that holds the bike while you're filling the tires. And lastly, the plan seems to show seams in the concrete paving, and you're putting the repair stand right on top of the intersection of two seams, and this causes this can cause the concrete to crack. So the concrete is specified to be 5 inches thick, which is what we need, but you should have that repair stand at least a foot from the seams in the concrete. I don't think these are the seams that Scott was talking about earlier in the themes for parks. But I would ask you to make a motion to have the construction diagrams changed to include those different products and that different positioning of the repair stand before they go out. And Scott, is the bike racks and the repair stand are still in the budget for the initial implementation? Because you didn't mention that either way. And that's all I had.
Thank you, and I apologize that I just barreled along without you.
We have a big plan to put bike parking in all the parks, so to leave it out of this one would be contrary to that plan.
Well, the bike racks are included, yep.
And the repair stand?
And you provided those comments earlier, right, Steve?
Only to you. But
so
since it was on your agenda tonight, I stayed to make them to the Park Commission because they are the ones that actually can ask the engineer to.
And what I can do is I can forward those comments to Rob to make sure that we get those in there.
Thank you.
Yep. And certainly the idea of the prairie to be reduced in size, similar to the master plan, I think we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to see the loss of what was originally envisioned for the prairie, but what we did in that discussion was make the prairie a little bit bigger going north to south. That was what we asked if we could do. So if you're going to have to go back to the drawing board if you can maximize that.
Well, I think.
I mean, they have to redo that. You know, their construction documents are way off. And again, I understand we're not talking about the node in particular, but part of the reason of saying we wanted it filled out is because we were losing it to the basketball court. So it's part of the discussion as a master plan, but not part of the discussion as construction documents.
So you want that diagonal opening there, and then the vertical opening as identified in the master plan from.
Oh, you mean the paths that are already in there?
Well, no, these right here. This.
Yeah, those are the access paths.
So you want those included in there?
Well, I mean, That's what we approved.
Yeah, no,
We
I agree.
approved that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So I'll make those changes.
Yeah.
Scott, can you tell, do either of the schools have an outside basketball court? I'm just wondering if, it's postponed, maybe it's never needed
They have 6 basketball courts.
on the playgrounds outside the schools.
Yeah. Now, at the time, and it's true because we don't live far from there, they're deteriorating and the backstops are not, the park system puts up a nicer backstop, so if you're playing, you feel like you're actually playing the game. But, and the other thing, though, that's an unknown is the school is talking about expanding, and so whether or not they replace or keep all the basketball courts, I guess, saying that there's 6 now doesn't mean there's going to be 6 in 2 years from now.
So our decision to postpone is probably a wise one at this point. Something could change if they upgraded theirs, they'd say, why should we spend the money to have?
Right.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Heidi?
Well, I mean, I know time is of the essence here, but I feel like, we have discussed these changes so many times and we've never actually seen them. And I am really reticent to vote yes on something that I haven't seen.
What hasn't she said?
Go ahead, Chris.
I kind of agree with Heidi. I feel like in the different changes, very numerous changes on this plan, this isn't the first time that what came back to us wasn't kind of what we asked for. So I would be very hesitant to approve construction documents with, an asterisk here, an asterisk there, without actually seeing them. So I agree. I mean, clock's ticking. We want to get shovels in the ground, but I don't think I would vote to approve a plan without seeing it the way it needs to be.
Okay, Scott, a question along those lines then. How much time, and they have to tell you, but is there a way for us to, if they have a shorter turnaround time and we can all convene a short meeting of some sort to give an approval later?
No, I think what we would do is I'd ask them to make these changes and I come back to the Park Commission in May. and
It's
then
all right
we'd
to
be-
leave, I hate to leave it to Matt. That's the only reason I'm suggesting.
Need a meeting early or let us know, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think we'd push it back a month and.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, if it happens that they think they can get information to us and you could ask us about meeting.
Well,
I know, you don't know what their answer is.
No.
Also, I think it would be nice to see some more illustrations of is the play equipment proposed, what's specifically going out to bid, or is that going to be?
No, that's what's going.
That's what's going. Okay, so I think it would be nice to see what that playground equipment looks like, other than just from plan view as well, because that doesn't really tell us a whole lot. And one of the things that these neighbors were pretty vocal about was having something that was, interesting and unique and different, and not just your typical kind of post and platform structure. So I think that's a big part of this park, and it's one of the things we're doing first. So I think just some more clarity on that would be great.
And another,
I would agree with that.
okay. Another question that's really not part of the construction documents, but we're on the topic, that paved path along the far west end that goes behind the homes and then is to where we need some approval from the school to continue the path onto their property. Did they ever get back to us on yes or no?
I didn't reach out. Yeah, I didn't reach
okay.
out to them.
All right. Thank you. So
I think we need to table this until all the questions that we had are answered.
yes. Did we do a motion or did we just launch into discussion? I don't think we had a motion, so we could have a motion to table?
I'll move we table this construction document approval.
I'll second.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
It's tabled. Okay. All right. A lot of papers on here that I should just forget about zooming past and figure out where I am the old-fashioned way on what I printed. Okay. We had nothing in our area 6, correct, on our agenda, so 7 is communications.
Arbor Day Foundation Growth Award, along with Tree City of the World recognition, which I communicated to you guys, which were some great awards received by Anna and the forestry department for the city. So I definitely wanted to share that with everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And staff reports? Any questions for Scott on the staff reports? Future agenda items, suggestions?
I think we should make sure that the park naming thing gets on the agenda sooner than later before we all forget what we talked about today.
Yeah, yeah.
Recommendations for that policy. Okay.
I have one that is referring to, excuse me, some of the questions the resident brought last month regarding Hillside Heights, but it really pertains to not just that park, but others. But this is the one that happens to be in the forefront right now. The area was nicely cleaned out around where it got rid of the invasives, et cetera. And the resident was asking about like a master plan, but it was explained that that's not quite something that's done for the neighborhood parks. But what about having something on the agenda to talk about what is the maintenance plan? What do you, an opportunity for Scott and Jor and Anna to talk about what's done as a follow-up to a specific clean-out? Because I think the neighbors are interested in knowing that as well. It can just be a communication or it doesn't have to be an action item per se, but just an opportunity to talk about it. Or putting something in a memo and sending it out to all of us and include the neighborhood in it. Yeah, I mean, do you go in there every 3 years with a forestry mower? Do you go in every year? Do you hire a contractor to spray, or what happens next is the question.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
And then I think, didn't we want to invite Alder
Maldonado. Joe Maldonado.
Maldonado to talk about
Yep, I got that.
his. Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
Yep, I got that. What is next for maintenance?
Okay.
So you're saying that a memo would be fine for that?
Yeah, I would hope so. And then it could be shared with the neighbors. I mean, if they have anyone ask questions, they can. We'll hear those. Anything else for agenda items? Otherwise, announcements. The next 2 meetings are May 2nd and June 6th. And we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move adjournment.
Dave?
I'll second.
Okay. In favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at
8:38.
8:38. Thank you very much.